Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone is doing well. So for tonight's show, doing something a little bit different. I have as a guest, I have my brother. My brother, I've mentioned him on the show a bunch. He is a guitar player, and a fantastic musician. And I'm not saying that because he's my brother. But check out his channel and you'll see what I mean. And he's also very helpful for me in terms of recording some of my original music. I've put out a shit ton of original music in the last couple of months, and some of you have been mentioning how great it all sounds and all that. And for that, I just tip my hat to my brother, because whatever I come up with, he makes sound good. So anyway, without further ado, let me bring him on. Hey, Dennis, how's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Cool. We got 14 people in here right now. Let me just say a quick hello to everyone. James Severin is with us. Fruitcake Tony, Rebel Rocker. Nice to see you. Brian Spalding. Quentin James is in the house. Janice Lala, Lars Guitars. There's my buddy Brian S. Mitch is with us. Mark Tanner. Half Face, nice to see you. Dwight Bailey is here. Welcome everybody. Thanks for checking out the show. And as we go through this, I'll warn you, there's a bit of a delay, okay, in your question and what I see, because I am monitoring both Facebook. We are streaming to Facebook. We are also streaming to YouTube. And so if you have questions, please put a bunch of question marks before the question, and I will be able to see those a lot easier. And as I've mentioned that, we got a few more people. CK is with us, and Cecil Music. Thanks everybody for popping in. You guys are awesome. All right. So Dennis, what are we currently working on? You have been putting out some stuff. You've sent me a few things. What are you currently working on music wise, and kind of what's your goal with the stuff that you're doing right now?
It's a good question, Hack. And first of all, thanks for having me on, and shout out to all the people that are joined in and watching. I guess from my side, I'm working on few more tracks to finish off, sort of an album, I'd call it, about 10 or 11 tracks or so of just original guitar-based music, just to get some material out there for people to listen to and enjoy. My next track is probably looking more like a kind of traditional bluesier type number. What I try to do is selfishly is like showcase different guitars and different guitar styles in each of the pieces that I put out there. So, and hoping that people dig them. As far as you and I, we've got a recording date this weekend. Yep. So we'll surprise your audience with what comes next out of that. And I'm glad to hear that everybody's enjoyed the stuff that we put together and put out.
Yeah, I mean, I always mention, when I go to your place to record, it's like, it's like Picasso. It's like me showing up at your place with a bunch of crayons to Picasso and like drawing something, because it's so, I mean, compared to the stuff that you do, it's like, it's like cave drawings,
Well, your stuff is actually trickier to put together than mine, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because
Your stuff is insane, man.
my
Like,
stuff just takes a lot of takes. That's all. It's and usually I have like a pretty refined idea of what I'm going with.
right,
So it's just a matter of like, 1,000 takes of trying to get a lick out right.
right.
Your stuff tends to have more production values and like a little more sonic spread than a lot of my stuff. So um,
That's surprising. Yeah, because my
yeah,
stuff is more or less at the end of the day, it's really straight ahead rock, and your stuff is I mean, you'll go from rock to like a jazz thing and then back to a rock thing. And then you do all this textural stuff that's really, really cool, like this outside the box kind of stuff, which is also very cool. We got a question actually right away. Awesome. Mr. Fuji, welcome to the show. Dennis, I saw a while back you said Guitar Hack actually sucks, but you didn't have the heart to tell him. Do you still feel that way?
I said Guitar Hack sucks. I don't really recall that.
Okay.
Uh,
Thanks for the question, Mr. Fuji. Rock on, brother.
Guitar Hack is great, and if there was no Guitar Hack, there would be no Denskilmusic, right? So my brother got me started off and playing, and like showed me the path to all this cool guitar stuff. I mean, I grew up in the '80s, essentially, when shredding and that kind of stuff was popular. So I was exposed to a lot of that and a lot of hard rock, and I always felt that some of the craziest guitar playing was in the genres of hard rock and metal. So that's where I come from, and that's I think where a lot of Hack and I find common ground. Even though I'm not a huge fan of that style of music, a lot of my playing is based on '80s and '70s stuff. So yeah, I don't think Hack sucks. I think Hack is awesome, and I wouldn't be producing him if that was the case, right? So
it's yeah, like you kind of came up in that whole vibe of the shred. And I mean, we're just so folks know, there's almost a 12-year difference in age between us. And you know I mean, I mean, I was growing up through the 80s, but all my playing, for whatever reason, has been much more informed by the 70s than the 80s. Like, I mean, I dabble a little bit in the 80s, but at the end of the day, really, if I'm honest about my ability and what I do and kind of what I strive for, is more of a 70s thing, right? Where it's not so much about acrobatics, and I'm saying that with a ton of respect, because I can't do it. It's just I can't. I've never been that guy. It's more about note choice and melody, as opposed to whammy bar and tapping and all this and all these techniques. But that stuff, that you coming up when you did that, sort of was, hey, that's guitar playing, right?
yeah, big
12
time.
years later, right?
Yeah, there was definitely a focus. I mean, like I also got big into Ace's style of playing and like earlier guitar players. But when I was growing up, guys like Steve Vai were huge,
Yeah.
and Paul Gilbert was huge. Like I remember hanging out with my neighbor at the time and watching those Paul Gilbert Hot Licks videos like over and over again, just to learn how to play like 180 miles an hour. Like we were we would we were in a band back then, me and my neighbor, and we were doing like Iron Maiden stuff. So
Yeah.
there was a certain level of like shredability that you had to have. um, and so yeah, I picked up a lot of that stuff. But you know I was also heavily influenced by other '80s giant guitar players like Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? And guys that were coming up around then. So I mean, all that went out the wind. Like high levels of technical guitar playing went out the window when the grunge thing came. So when I started getting into playing more and more, there was a lot of that anti guitar movement happening at the same time. So I was
Yeah.
a bit of a nerd or an outcast, because I was still into like Steve Vai and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it wasn't cool to be able to play guitar there for a while. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Guitar solos were frowned upon, and yeah, I remember doing a solo at a gig when I was in high school with my band at the time, and just getting like water bottles thrown at me and stuff like that. So it's amazing how times have changed, right?
Yeah. Well, what was cool is, the neighbors you talk about, I know who you're talking about. And what was cool for you when you were coming up is you had guys to play with, and they were literally two houses down, right?
And they could
So
play.
what's that?
And they could play.
And they could play. They were amazing. I mean, one of them is a professional composer, as far as I know, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's and the thing is, when I came up, I had nobody to play with, like literally nobody. So you right away had that that sort of foundation, or that guys to play with. And I remember when I was when you were still a kid, and I remember you let me listen to a 4-track recording that you had, and I'm listening to this and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, wow. Man, I to this day I couldn't play that. I can't even remember the name of the song, but all I remember was it impressed the shit out of me. It's like, you guys are doing some pretty intense playing, you know.
Yeah, there was big influence. Like, and again, it was really uncool at the time, but we would play like Racer X songs and Iron Maiden stuff with the dueling guitars, and like a few originals where there was, like my neighbor would take the solo and then I would take a solo, and he would have some, flashy, incredible stuff, and I'd have to show up next and,
Yeah.
follow him up. So the pressure was on. But I look at it as there was a bit of healthy competition there, and like they were so much better than me, so it was easy for me just to like literally ride on their coattails and farm out all the great techniques and stuff that they had. And I was just it's easy to accelerate when you're near the your progress, when you're in front of a fountain, right?
Yeah. What would you say that was sort of the, in terms of like chops and really learning, was that sort of the foundation, was when you were playing with Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin and Sean, mostly Sean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of the sort of the impetus to kind of get into like the Malmsteen or the neoclassical type playing, because if you remember, those cats used to play like violin and piano too, and had
Yeah, yeah, they were
like,
totally musicians.
yeah, very well-rounded musicians, very heavy classical influence. So that's when after you gave me the lessons on like the major scale and like the minor scale and the modes and stuff like that,
That is
those
a
guys
okay.
showed me the sort of stuff about the melodic minor and harmonic minor scales and sweep picking and arpeggios and things like that. So it was a lot of shit happening all at once, like a lot of knowledge coming my way, that just sort of turned me into a wannabe Steve Vai Ingve type guy.
Yeah, one thing I find a lot in your stuff. And by the way, folks, Dennis has a channel, and I have his link below. And if you want to hear some, you know, higher tier playing, compared to mine, listen to his stuff. But shit, I forgot my question. But what I hear a lot in your playing is, especially on stuff like Stratoblaster. Like, I got into Hendrix a little bit, but you
Mm,
got like full bore into Hendrix.
yeah, yeah. Hendrix, I really leaned into really early on. He was probably like I. Everyone has got their sort of holy trinity, or three playing players that got them going. For me, the three were basically Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, and Stevie Ray. To be honest, there's other guys that sort of are right there with them, but like the first three players were Hendrix, Page, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that's actually kind of your fault, because I remember you showed me three videos. One was Jimmy at live at Monterey. The other one was Song Remains the Same. and
Yeah.
the other one was Stevie Ray live at the Alma Combo. And
Yeah.
that was before I was playing. I was, I don't know, like not even 10 or something like that. But that just burned those styles into my playing. And then you
Yeah.
used to feed me tapes and stuff like that. And one of the tapes you fed me was Axis Bold as Love. And to this day, that's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. And because Hendrix's playing was so weird to me. It was same with Stevie Ray. Like I couldn't understand how they could chord and solo at the same time, and their playing
Mm,
was so rhythmic and funky. And but also like with Hendrix, like he was just like a sonic like hurricane. Like he had
yeah.
crazy feedback and wild effects and stuff like that. Like
Soundscape. Soundscape.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. And like I've always seen guitars like you can play notes on it, but you can also just make a shit ton of noise. So that's where like the textural playing and all that stuff comes into my influence, but also like the funky, R&B type
yeah.
playing. Like
Yeah,
and the
that's what I
bit,
hear a lot of your stuff is a lot of it is sort of textural, right?
yeah,
I mean, but the thing is, but when I say textural, I'm not talking about, like shoegazing where, like it's all textural. It's like there's meat underneath there. There's also, there's the textural stuff, but there's some really heavy playing going on underneath that, right? So, it's not just textural because I can't do anything else. It's like this is just sort of a, like another layer on top of whatever you're doing, right? So
yeah,
that's
yeah. That's great. I mean, I appreciate that. It's something that I've always focused on is trying to like play guitar from different angles, like play it kind of like a piano, approach it like a piano player or a horn player would, just in terms of chords and textures, but also like the sounds around it. Like later in life, like I really got into players like Johnny Marr,
right, right.
who was like just an absolute master at playing really catchy chord stuff in the background and textures and songwriting. I mean, at the end of the day, this is something that you taught me is like, and I've learned from a lot of other guitar players too, is that you really got to serve the music, like serve the song.
Yeah,
Playing really should not stand in the way or be too buried. There's kind of a mix in between of, not just notes but sounds and tones and stuff. And yeah, just playing off the drummer, playing off the bass player, playing off the singer, using the right tone. A lot of that stuff I try and squeeze, so, goes through my mental funnel when I'm putting something together.
yeah. Like when I come over with stuff to play, you're I'll have this the music, and then you're the one to like, oh, try a different sound on this part, or try a different sound on that part, and I'm pretty open. It's like anything that, at the end of the day, anything that makes the song better, you know, is is a good choice, especially because, at the end of the day, you always have to be cognizant of the listener, right? You have to keep the listener engaged, and nothing ruins that more than, well, one of two things: either they're hearing the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's the monotony, or it's just not catchy. It has to be catchy,
Definitely.
right? And it has to always sort of, it's like you're on a trip, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's like, okay, so they've done that already, okay, I'm going to shut my brain off. No, wait a minute, here's a new sound. And then, you know what I mean? So that's a thing too. I notice in your original stuff is that you go a lot of places, and you have the ability to go a lot of places, and what I mean by that is, you'll infuse a lot of jazz stuff into, you'll switch from rock to jazz like on a dime, and then the other thing, and a couple of more recent ones, is you started to incorporate the whole turntable thing.
Hmm.
Right. I know you were into that for a while, but I like the way that you're incorporating that into your stuff. And for old farts like me, as soon as we hear DJ, it's like, oh, we just automatically, you shut down. But wait a minute, It's not just a wooka wooka wooka. It's like, no, this is an integral part of the composition.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and some of my friends still make fun of me to this day, but there was a time when I was in university that I actually gave up guitar for for a few years. Like, I mean, I still had them, and I wasn't really playing that much. I was more into like hip hop, and really into turntablism, which is the idea of using the turntable as a musical instrument. There's like the ability to, like, you can do different techniques with the turntables and different types of vinyls, like there's something called beat juggling, where you can make your own beats by mixing two beats together and switching back and forth.
Mm.
There's extensive stuff on YouTube if you ever want to look up what beat juggling is, and scratching and all that stuff. And so yeah, I've always thought turntables were really cool. And I mean, I guess where you and I kind of diverge in influences is when I was growing up, there was a lot of hip hop around,
Yeah.
uh, and I loved it, and I still do. So that's where that comes from, and a lot of that textury, like little sort of rhythmic stuff or switching gears, that comes a lot from funk music and listening to bands like Parliament Funkadelic, because they sort of throw everything into a big soup, like a big stew or a big soup, and sort of mix it all together. And if it's funky, you keep it. Like, funk is funk and jazz are huge influences to me. That music is very much alive, and I listen to a lot of James Brown and a lot of Funk Brothers, a lot of old school funk that really influenced my playing as well, because that's where those little tasty bits of guitar playing come in, like those simple little chicka chickas, and like the simple, like sometimes simple is better, right?
Yeah.
um
Well,
and yeah, I've got a huge punk rock influence too, so folks will hear that in my tunes for sure.
you mean, yeah, like you've got that, which I can't do to save my life. You get that whole right hand funk rhythm thing. Like I could not do that to save my life. You know,
Hmm.
I wish I had that ability. Like, I mean, I don't have. I wish I could do that. I mean, I hear you sometimes, like, you're playing like something so Mickey Mouse that I can play, but I can never make it sound like that. And you know, it's all about the right hand, you know, and
Yeah.
it's just that, like, that's an ability that I wish I had, but I don't. I can't funk. I'm too white to funk. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
do that
I,
shit.
I've played in
That
a bunch of funk type bands, and yeah, it's a matter of I guess steeping yourself in the music to kind of learning a little bit about the mechanics of it, like hearing what the guitar players in James Brown's band used to do, and
yeah,
Prince. Prince is
Prince.
huge,
Prince is
right?
massive. I love Prince. I can't do if Prince. I can cover Prince if he's playing straight ahead rock, but if he starts doing the chugga chugga, I'm out. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So folks, in the chat, let me know if you have questions for myself or Dennis. Who, if you're just tuning in, Dennis is my younger brother who plays guitar, has his own YouTube channel below, does a lot of original stuff. And I mean, I don't know. I can't say you're a great guitar player because it sounds like I'm, because you're my brother. But it's true. Okay, it's true. He's just
I deny all accusations of such nonsense.
no. You can play circles around me. I've always said that. So, anyways, yeah, check out his channel and check out his original music. It's really, and I usually when I mention your channel, I was saying this off air. If nothing else, go to his channel and listen to Stratoblaster, and then get back to me. It's like, holy shit! It's like, wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very impressive. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Stratoblaster was a fun one to play, and like I was saying before, I really just wanted to see what sounds I could get out of my Strats, and still pull off some, like, there's a bit of Stevie Ray in there,
It's
and
funny you mentioned Stevie Ray a lot. I hear a hell of a lot more Jimmy than I hear Stevie, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Ton of Jimmy in your stuff all the time.
yeah, yeah. Oh, Jimmy is huge for me. And I mean, a lot of people compare Stevie and Jimmy, but they're worlds apart, as far as I'm concerned. And it's like Stevie is one of those guys that I've tried my hardest for years to try and cop his style,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's impossible to me.
yeah.
Like, if
Stevie,
you listen, Pride and Joy, like I still can't get that
yeah,
heavy thing going. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
and
I mean, you mentioned earlier like Stevie at the Elma Combo. I would say that's one of the most impressive displays of guitar playing I've ever seen. Is Jimmy Ray Vaughan at the Elma Combo? It's just holy shit.
you mean Stevie? Jimmy's his brother.
Ray Vaughan. I'm sorry, because Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan at the Elma Combo. So we got a couple questions here. CK is asking, "What is Dennis' favorite band of all time?" Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, that is a good one. But I'd have to say, over the years, that I still listen to and just worship at their altar would have to be Led Zeppelin. Um, yeah, they're just, that's it. The Beatles are up there too, but I mean, Zeppelin just moves me like no one's business.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of go between Zeppelin. Well, my top two would probably be Zeppelin, and the Beatles would be the other one.
Yeah, Beatles are up there too for me. Just their music is just incredible, but not as much emphasis on the on the guitar playing in that band, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a big melody guy,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and and I try to be melodic as much as I can with what I can do, and yeah, it's there's a lot of Zeppelin or Beatles in there. Mr. Rock is asking, how's the Pia Ibanez, and is it worth the money?
Great question. The Pia Ibanez is fantastic. Whether it's worth the money, I guess, depends on your own budgetary constraints. For me, for me, it's a pain in the wallet in the bank account for sure. But I do enjoy it and I play it daily. I'm getting to know it a lot better. Like I think whenever I get a guitar, it takes me like a little bit of time to sit with it and play it and really get to know it in and out. And the more I'm playing it, the more I'm enjoying it. It's my only guitar with like a Floyd Rose or Edge type tremolo on it, so I'm still getting a little bit used to that. I'm still not like super great at whammy bar tricks and things, and but the tuning stability has been great. That was one thing I was worried about,
Mm.
and it in terms of sounds and sound quality, it's like I consider it very Strat like. I think Hack, when you were over, you were saying it was pretty similar to a Strat in some of those middle positions too.
Yeah, you get the quack, you get the Strat quack. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really loving it. It's a great addition to my guitar arsenal for sure.
Oh, PJ Kobe, and this is because I've done. I mean, everyone on my channel knows I'm a grew up with Kiss, and I've done 100. I don't know, a ton of shows on Kiss. So PJ Kobe is asking, does Dennis like Kiss?
Oh hell yeah, yeah! I'm a big Kiss fan. Um, everything up until
He had
sort
no
of
choice.
the yeah, what's that?
Said he had no choice.
Yeah, no, I was a little kid looking at Kiss posters all the time. Then Gene used to scare the shit out of me with his blood routine. But then I got into it, and me and Hack there we would go to conventions and get
Oh,
videos
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
and yeah, I'm a huge Kiss fan. Everything up to like just before Vinnie Vincent, and I even like music from The Elder. I think it's an alright album.
Actually, I kind of do too. It kind of grows on you.
Yeah.
Also, PJ Kobe's asking what your number one guitar is. Now, that's a hard choice because what are you up to now? Like, are you 15, 16? What do you got? 20?
For 200. No, I'm up to 14 electrics right now. And let me see, four acoustics and a bass. As far as
I,
electric guitars, I think, I mean, my favorite guitar is whichever one I have in my hands. Um, but probably my number one, still to this day, is my PRS Custom 24. I was
Wow.
just, yeah, I was playing it today, and it's like it's a core model from 2009. Since I've flipped so many guitars, it's now the guitar I've owned the longest in full form. I have another guitar which is a Tele from the early 2000s. That's probably, one, my number 1.5. It's up there as well. But yeah, still my PRS Custom 24. That's
Wow. Yeah.
going with me into the grave probably.
Yeah, that's like my RO. The one of yours that I want is that CE20 or the PRSE. That's the one I want.
The blue one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's an amazing instrument. I mean, my stable has evolved to the point where they're all keepers, and any one of them could be my number one.
Quinn's asking the same question about Kiss. Yeah. Does Baby Hack? How does Baby Hack feel about Kiss? So yeah, if you got questions again, please throw a bunch of question marks in front, and we'll get going from there. Yeah, so you started. You basically got heavily into playing with the neighbors, and then but the thing is, what you did, which I didn't do, is you really went into a whole heavy study of guitar, right? I mean, you studied it a lot because folks ask me, like I did a show on Saturday, and when I do my, I don't know if you've seen any of my Saturday night hangouts, but what I'll do is I'll pull up like some YouTube tracks and I'll play along. And one of the questions I got was like, "How did are, did you study music?" And I'm like, "No." Well, do you know what you're playing? And I'm like, well, I know that this song is in this key, and that's it, right? So I don't know that, that I'm playing a third, I'm playing a fifth. I just know from years of playing what's going to work. But you, on the other hand, you actually took the time and studied it to a point where you really got into the jazz thing. So when did that happen? And sort of what was the impetus for that? Were you just getting bored with straight ahead rock or
Yeah, kind of. It's I just have like sort of a bit of curiosity naturally about myself, and um, like when I first started playing, I also started early on listening to like jazz, and guitar players like Lenny Burrell and Wes Montgomery were huge for me. Pat Martino is another one. Um, like really early on, because I'd be reading magazines and all these names would be mentioned. Al Di Meola, in the sort of the fusion world, was always mentioned in magazines.
yeah.
And yeah, it was through magazines that I kind of discovered where all these, really great guitar players were sort of what they were up to, and reading articles. And like, I always wanted what the next guitar player had, if I didn't have it. So if it was like, some shred chops or some jazz chops, I wanted to learn it and master it. And playing with guys that were, in many cases a lot better than me, and in many cases had, taken lessons, and were actually like serious about music, like they knew their shit.
Mhm.
I just kind of, sucked the knowledge off them like a vampire to try and conquer and learn what these guitar players were up to, because it sounded much like Hendrix, like it was sounded impossible to me. So I wanted to crack the code. I wanted to know what these guys were up to and how they were pulling it off. So so yeah, I did sort of I took a few lessons like here and there, but mostly, through good old fashioned book learning. Like, this is probably pre-internet days. I started amassing like a bunch of, books and concepts around jazz theory, jazz harmony. So I wanted to speak the language, and like, I knew I didn't want to play with my head necessarily. Like, a lot of it was really complicated, sort of like math, but
Yeah.
it was all just another language that I was just, I really wanted to learn it. Getting into jazz and jazz vocabulary and sort of the more theoretical side of music, it really opened up my playing and helped me kind of see beyond, just the standard blues box and modes and traditional harmony. And probably the biggest thing that helped me get there was taking up keyboards and like trying to play with other, like piano players and stuff, folks that knew like the theory side of things and showed me how you can voice things different and how that sort of translates onto the guitar.
Mm.
So yeah, having the neighbor around, and I don't know if you've met my former guitar player, Brian from the Ninos there, that
Oh
cover
yeah.
90s cover band, but
Oh,
he's a
yeah.
musical genius, like, and he's extremely well studied. So he taught me quite a lot of hardcore exercises, dealing with jazz. And I mean, it's an endless study. Like, to me, I'll be studying
Never-
that stuff
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. I'm still practicing them over, you know, different scales and chords over 6-5-2-1, changes and 2-5-1s and all that. And got a bunch of True Fire jazz courses that are like, sometimes it feels like you're shoveling concrete. But once you get the concepts under your hands, and in your head, it opens up the fretboard and helps you see
Yeah.
past the boxes.
You get a shit ton of possibilities. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and sometimes you get into option paralysis, which can be a problem. But it's nice to be able to use your head, instead of playing with your hands, or being able to like think about something in theory, like abstractly, and then put it onto the guitar. Um, yeah, that's always blown my mind, how guys can navigate over super complicated chord changes.
Yeah. Guys who can just and do it on the fly, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what jazz is, right? It's like you're doing it on the fly. When getting back to what I was saying about improvising over tracks, it's like, okay, well, I know what key it is. So, I mean, I'm just playing, the scales, but, you know, switching with chords and stuff like that. And that's a whole other level of playing. Now you're getting into the mastery of of playing music, right? So,
Yeah, it's really good to expand the vocabulary, right? And see what other options are
yeah.
out there. Keeps it fresh for me.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. CK's asking Guitar Hack, where does Dennis sit with Rush? I think I know the answer to that question.
Oh yeah. So like there's like Zeppelin, and then like Rush is like right up there with me.
Yeah.
Another hugely, massively early influence on me. Again, starting from Hack, like showing me like playing Rush tunes, and I love Rush.
Rush.
One of my favorite concerts we ever went to was the end of their R30 thing, right? Like
Yeah.
we
Our
saw them
40,
for the last
40,
time, pretty
40.
much.
Yeah. I mean, we were at our local Air Canada Center, right? Our local, and Rush is, from Toronto, right? And I don't know if you remember this, but I mean, when Alex Lifeson came out with the double neck SG and started
Oh
the intro to Xanadu, I was
yeah,
crying like a baby.
yeah.
You know,
I was one of the best concerts I've ever seen, and I'll always remember that.
oh my
Like
god, it's
yeah,
like, oh yeah, absolutely love Rush. Yeah, Rush, not just because they're a hometown band, but oh my god,
hmm
the breadth, if that's the right word, of the music and the melody and the complex. Here's the perfect example of a band that can, you know, has the musical knowledge to incorporate anything under the sun in any given track, but yet is so creative that they still put it all beautifully in the context of a song, so that if you're just a casual listener, you don't get lost along the trail. You know what I mean? It's just, man, they just uh,
yeah, they're incredible.
incredible. I mean, yeah, there are no words. Rush, yeah, like just like you said, kind of Zeppelin and Rush are kind of like this.
Yeah,
I still give a little bit of a edge to Zeppelin for me, because I'm a massive fan of Jimmy Page. Holy shit, do I love what that guy did. but they're just it's still, man, they're almost like neck and neck, right?
I remember you dubbed me a tape of 2112, and I wore it to bits, and I loved the crap out of it. But I had never seen Rush. Like I didn't like I knew who Getty was and Alex was and Neil, but like I had never seen them live or what they were about. And then there was some footage on like the local news channel of the latest Rush concert, and there the three of them were, like Getty's playing like Taurus pedals and bass at the
Yeah,
same time.
bass
Uh,
and singing. Yeah,
yeah, and singing, and like Neil was behind this like ridiculous kit, and Alex was just ripping a solo, and I was like, I can't believe there's only three guys.
three guys.
Like these guys sound like a spaceship landing on like they're so big sounding, and I just couldn't believe that it was just three guys
Yeah, yeah. No,
from
Rush is
Scarborough
well, Willowdale
or
actually.
Willowdale. Yeah,
Willowdale. That's Getty and Alex are from Willowdale,
yeah,
and Neil is from St. Catharines.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, Rush is just massively up there. Yeah, yeah. So um, again, if anyone's got any questions, put lots of question marks, excuse me, in front of the question, and I will be able to see it right away. So for those of you that are just tuning in, we got 40 people watching. Um, this is my younger brother Dennis, who is a musician, great guitar player, and great producer. Any of my we're up to seven original songs that have come out, and all the comments I've got, man, holy shit, that sounds great. Holy shit. It's you know what? He makes me sound great. That's a mission unto itself. So there you go. So yeah, it's and Dennis also has his own channel, and the link is below, and I highly suggest you check out his channel. Just crazy, some crazy compositions and some crazy guitar playing. PJ Kobe's asking thoughts on April Wine. I love April Wine.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great tunes and a lot of great tones. I mean, I've listened to a lot of them. To be honest, I'm surprised they're not bigger, like or more worldwide famous.
Yeah, they had a string of like massive hits. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and some sick playing and sick guitar solos,
yeah.
all over the place with their material. So great Canadian band. I mean, we grow them, great up in Canada.
How you guys like the band? You're talking like the band. You know, uh, that's not really me. I don't know. What do you think of the band?
I love them. I listen to a lot of the band. Music from
Oh,
the
there you
Big Pink is one of my favorite albums. I can't remember the name of the album where "Life Is a Carnival" comes from, but that's one of my all-time favorites
go.
as well.
Yeah, so you're definitely more into them than me. And Josh Stern is asking, are you guys Steve Vai fans? I'm not particularly huge on Steve Vai, but I know that you are.
Yeah, and people ask me a lot, like, "Oh, you got a Steve Vai guitar? You must be a Steve Vai fanboy." What I usually say is, I love Steve Vai's playing. I don't like all of his music.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Steve Vai for it's like okay, so I mean, I've got a video. I've got one of the G3s, and it's Steve Vai and Petrucci, and of course Satriani, and they all come out and they do their individual thing. And the thing that surprised me the most is out of the three, the guy that I liked the best was Petrucci.
Oh, he's sick. Yeah.
Right? Petrucci was playing some amazing stuff. And what was cool, it was amazing, but it was also very tasty. It was very, really, really good melodic, playing, which impressed the hell out of me. More so than the Dream Theater stuff. What he does in that video absolutely blew me away. Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Petrucci's a true master for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But if I was, there's always that thing, are you a Satch guy? Are you a Vi guy? For me, it would be Satch. And reason being is, the kind of music I came up with, Um, Satch always has a little bit of blues in what he does, you know. And Vi, it's probably in there, but it's harder to find.
Mm.
So I tend to lean a little bit more to Satriani than Vi, you know. But again, it's all opinions, folks. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I like them all. I can't put my hang my hat on any single camp or guitar player.
Somebody Nuno mentioned or Quentin James mentioned Nuno. I talk a lot about Nuno on my channel because I absolutely love Nuno. I think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. All those guys that I just mentioned, Vi, Satriani, or Petrucci, I'll take Nuno over all of those guys. Nuno for me is unfreaking believable because he's like the whole package. He's got the chops, and he's got is groove, and he's got it in spades. And I mean, his playing is so tasty and so bang on. I mean, it's like every extreme song that you hear, you're just waiting for that solo. And then that solo just takes the song into the stratosphere. And that for me is the mark of any great guitar player, whether it be Jimmy Page in a Led Zeppelin song, you know, or on a much, lesser degree, in terms of ability, Ace Frehley in a Kiss song, it's like it's that solo that takes it to another level. And Nuno does that in spades. I absolutely love Nuno Betancourt.
Yeah, Nuno is a legend for me. He's one of those first early influences that got me going. Because, like you said, he's a total package. He's got the funky thing going. He can do the neoclassical shred, finger tapping, string skipping, and then he's
Yeah,
got some blues flash in there. Like he's just one of those guys that channeled all those influences and sound and just spit them out like in a such a beautiful way. If there's a guitar player that I try and be like, it's probably guys like Nuno that just
yeah,
grab all these influences and
put
you can
them all.
hear Eddie Van Halen in him, but then there's some Hendrix stuff in it, and yeah, he's just a monster. Even on acoustic guitars,
Holy shit! Can he rip on an acoustic guitar? It's
he's
crazy.
just a monster.
So another Canadian content question is from Spacey Jazzy Blues. He's asking thoughts on Kim Mitchell. So Um, Kim Mitchell was in a band called Max Webster before he became a solo guy. Kim Mitchell, I much prefer him and Max Webster. Max Webster was sort of they called them a little before your time, Dennis, but they called them Baby Rush. Okay, because they were like like the. But I prefer Max Webster music with Kim Mitchell and that more that proggy kind of bent to it. When Kim Mitchell went solo, he was playing a lot of hits, a lot more accessible music, a lot more pop music, if you will. But for me, if you listen to any Max Webster, Kim Mitchell was insane. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a monster of a guitar player.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Um, another guy I think is probably underrated on the worldwide scene. Um, I kind of put him and Rick Emmett up on the
Yeah.
same sort of unsung heroes, like great Canadian players out there.
I'll throw another name in there. Then Randy Bachman.
Oh my God, yeah, just a
Yeah.
genius. Like
Yeah.
he can play jazz, rock. Like he's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm a massive BTO fan, and I mean BTO like they'll be doing a regular rock song, and then the tag out they'll just turn it like on a dime. They do like a little jazz riff thing, and he just rips on it. I'm like, holy shit, that's like the perfect. And every note he plays is perfect.
Oh yeah, just so tasteful and spot
Oh,
on.
tasty as all hell, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so let's go back to while there's more questions coming up. So let's go back to the beginning. So when did you? I mean, I know the answer to all these questions because I lived in the same house as you until I was like 22 or 23. But what was the first guitar, and what got you interested in playing the guitar?
I'll answer them kind of in reverse order. So, what got me interested in guitar was having a bigger brother that played guitar. I remember being like really young. I don't know how young, but you think you were playing a show at the high school there, and you got up on stage, and
Oh
I
shit!
was. Do you remember that one, or does it hurt?
Yeah, I could barely play at that point. I think I actually sang lead.
That's
On,
right.
yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and you had that Les Paul copy at the time, and
My
like I
first
remember you.
guitar, and
Yeah.
I knew where it was. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I want to do what my big brother does, right? Like, and you had obviously all the posters and stuff in your room, and you're a big Kiss and Aerosmith fan at the time.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, and I just, ever since I was born, I've had this thing for music. I think it runs in our family.
It does.
Uh, and yeah, I just, whether it was, driving in the car with mom and dad listening to AM radio, like I was just soaking it all in, and I just loved music for some reason. So from there it just baby steps till getting my first guitar. Like I remember being in grade 6, I think it was, where I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, around that time, maybe 12, I don't know. I remember asking you like, oh, I want to play guitar, and you're like, well, play the bass, the stand-up bass, because that's the closest thing to a guitar.
Oh,
uh,
you were wondering what instrument to play. Yeah.
if I don't know if you remember that, and you said, well, play bass, it's the closest thing to a guitar, and that'll get you started. So mom and dad were not really happy when I brought home this giant double bass.
Massive. Yeah.
And started playing that, and I remember pissing them off so much because I'd be in the living room like playing this giant thing, trying to learn Led Zeppelin riffs on it. um, and then from there, I just kept pushing and bugging mom and dad to play guitar, and I borrowed our cousin Rich's acoustic to get me going, and took some lessons on that, and I just wouldn't stop bugging mom and dad until I think you convinced them to let me have an electric guitar. So we went downtown to that guy's place that you used to get all your gear
Yeah. Yeah.
for the
My
ethnic band, we'll say.
my yeah, yeah, I bought a ton of shit off of that guy. Yeah.
You were buying a bunch of equipment off that
Yeah.
off that dude, and so you got me a deal on my first guitar and amp. So first guitar was a PVT 1000 guitar. It was hum single, made in the USA.
Black with a maple neck, if I'm not mistaken.
Black with a maple neck, yeah, because I wanted I was torn right between Strats and Gibsons, so that guitar to me was kind of the closest in between, and a tiny little PV Rage 58 amp.
I don't remember getting the amp for you.
Yeah, we had to. You had to really talk the guy down to throw it in.
Yeah, I can't remember
Um,
the name.
no,
Anyway,
I can't remember either. But and
original.
then so mom and dad basically it ended up being a bit more than $500, and you broke out your wallet and paid the rest, and I had to pay that back to mom and dad, and to you, which I ended up doing as
I
soon as
remember.
I was yeah, as soon as I was old enough.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the first electric guitar back then, and that would probably be, gosh, mm, early '90s, maybe, I think.
Uh yeah, I was already out of the house, so it would have
Yeah,
been the 90s. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So and then it all went downhill from there.
I still remember that trying a bunch of guitars and then trying that one and then yeah, this one's not bad here. This one's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was really good for a starter guitar. I didn't mind, and like from that guitar, I hacked the crap out of it. I learned how to wire pickups and do all kinds of crazy stuff to it. And I ended up giving it to our cousin for his first guitar. So our cousin that lent me that first acoustic guitar, I gave my electric guitar
Oh,
to
here you
his
are.
son.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, tried to close the circle on that. But yeah, since then I've had tons of different guitars. Some I miss, some I still have.
I remember you taking you into, and then I had a relationship with another shop there on Dundas, which is no longer there. I remember taking you in there, and I think you wanted a Les Paul, and they had a Les Paul studio in there.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah,
And
that
I
was
remember, yeah, I remember taking you in there, and this is when the Les Paul studios literally first came out,
yep,
right? And I remember playing it, and I'm like, "Well, it's not crazy money." And I mean, this is a Les Paul. And then you came out and you tried. I think you ended up buying it too, didn't you?
yep. That was
Yeah.
my first good guitar. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
remember that.
that was an amazing guitar. Yeah, it was probably, I'm gonna say, second or third year maybe of when the Les Paul Studios sort of came back out by Gibson. So it was that really nice wine red finish without the binding and everything like that.
Yeah.
Really stripped down. It was used, so it was a decent price. And whoever owned the guitar before me pulled out the bridge pickup and put an EMG 81 in it.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Wow. And I still
yeah.
recommended it. Wow.
Yeah, it was
I
a
don't
killer
know.
guitar. Yeah, and I kept that guitar for many years, and eventually traded it in for my first like really good guitar, which was a Les Paul Standard in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've gone. I mean, you've gone through I think a shit ton more instruments than I have.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a disease.
Because all the time that when I was playing in the ethnic band, where I was gigging like, I mean, I was trying to remember how many in a year. We'd have 2 weekends off if we were lucky, and we were gigging. Rarely it was one night a week. Usually it was 2, 3 nights a week. So
Hmm.
you're looking at anywhere from 100 to 150 plus gigs a year. And then that whole time, I only owned two guitars. Or actually,
Yeah,
no, three. I had, and my main guitar for all those gigs you remember that
the Strat.
Strat, right?
Yeah,
The maple neck, lace sensor pickups. I mean, I literally, I mean, people pay a lot of money for guitars that are relic. That was real relic. I literally
yeah,
had like, you know, there were divots in the fretboard, and the frets were actually worn. Like there was real wear on that.
yeah,
When I bought that thing, and that was like my first really good guitar, and I bought that thing, and it would have been early 90s, like 92 or 93, whenever the lace sensors came out. I sold that guitar probably at this point, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I sold it for what I paid for it, if you can believe that.
yeah,
Did like over the course of 4 years, probably like 400 shows on that or more. And then I sold it because lace sensors were hot for whatever reason. And
yeah,
I always thought they sounded like ass. No, because the Strat that I have now that you've heard, I
yeah,
mean, with the Fat 50s, absolutely blows away that guitar.
yeah.
And when I heard this one, it's like, yeah, I'm selling that one. So,
I,
but that
I,
whole time, I had a Les Paul Deluxe gold top. I remember that Ibanez that I had,
yeah, the Roadstar
the Roadstar, and I had the
or
Strat
Roadster. Well, whatever. Yeah,
Roadster. Yeah, and I had that. Those were the only three. But in that amount of time, like from then till basically now, I've probably gone through maybe 15 or 20. But you've gone through a shit ton more than that.
yeah, yeah. Probably, I think last time I counted was around 50 uh,
Oh,
dif- different instruments. I keep a list of them. Um, yeah, and I've whittled it or narrowed it down to these 14 that I have right now. And I like to joke that I'm done because, I was
you're
always,
not done.
well, I don't have any more room on the wall or in the house. And my wife will kill me if I pick up anything else. But I've always tried to get like different guitars, like like for example, my Gibsons, like I have 5 of them. Which seems like why the hell would you need 5 Gibsons? Well, because they're all very different guitars. Like one's a P90, one's an Explorer, one's an SG. I have to have a Les Paul, right? I have to have a 335 style, so that's 5 guitars right there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, then it's funny because how things turned, because then when I started buying guitar, so when you were buying your first guitars, I would go and I would here try this one, try that here, and I would be picking up, and then it turned around where I was buying guitars and I was asking you to come and check them. It's like, is this thing any good? I don't know anymore, because I was out of it. I was out of the game for like 11 years, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I remember one of the first guitars we went to go see. I think we took a drive out to London or something like that, a couple hours
oh,
away.
this guitar, which was a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was that really crappy
Yeah, it was crap.
Paul Stanley, I think it was.
It looked like the guy kept it in the swamp or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bobby Lopes is from the ethnic playing world, like myself, and he's asking what store on Dundas. Bobby, if you tell me the name of the store, it will ring a bell. Right now, I can't remember the name, and I can't remember the name of the guy that I used to deal with, but I guarantee you it's the same guy that you dealt with back in the day. I'll put money on it. It's the same guy. I can't remember his name.
I think it started with an F, but
I cannot remember
I
his
can't
name.
remember.
I can't even remember the name of the store.
No, me neither. That's buried.
Music Bureau.
Yes, that's right.
Music Bureau. Yeah. What's the name of the guy? Indian guy. Yeah. What was his name, Bobby?
Is it Fatty? No.
When I did that remember when I did the California gig?
Yeah.
When I went and I did the gig in California, right? We were taking gear over there. I took Nash.
Nash.
Same guy.
Thank you.
Bobby.
Thanks,
Nash.
Bobby.
That's right, man. Oh, Bobby worked there. You may have worked there, or if you were in there in the early 90s, you may have seen me. I looked a lot different, though. I had hair down about here, and I was a lot more handsome. But anyway, what was I going to say? I remember when we went to California, and I took a guitar and a keyboard, and I actually asked Nash to fill out a form saying that, it was all bought in Canada, so we wouldn't get into trouble at the border.
Yeah.
And we all got paperwork for all our instruments so that we didn't have any issues going over to the border. Yeah. Wow, man. Wow.
It's another funny memory from that is that, as I recall correctly, our old man made you like a flight case out of wood.
Yeah, Dad. My dad made me a wooden box where he had my
like
dad. He made me a wooden box where I could fit a keyboard and then a layer and then the guitar case. And I remember when the guys were trying to load that thing, that solid wooden box, and I still have it. That wooden box must have weighed like 60, 70 pounds. And I remember that throwing that on the plane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole other story. My California trip is a whole other story. They were playing us on the radio when we got down there, right?
That's really cool.
That cooler. Remember we had that cassette we made?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were playing us on the radio, and we had like 700 people at that gig.
That's awesome. It
was insane. Yeah.
Never mind this English music. We got to get back into
to make $50 into 30 people, right?
Yeah.
Ripper. Remember Ripper?
I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember getting thrown out of bars coming to see you.
That's right.
That happened twice.
You got thrown out. Was it Mingles? It was must have been Mingles you got thrown out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was funny, man. We started playing those places in Lakeshore, and we played this play. I mean, now it's your show, but I'm telling you my stories. But we played this place, right? It was called Toozers. I remember. I can't remember. It was called Toozers, and we went there and we played with Ripper, and they had a house band. They had like a Sunday jam. You just show up, right? And then you get your turn and you go and you play, right? So, they had a house band, so they had all the gear there, whatever. Well, we had been rehearsing, so because we were trying to get up to, gig speed kind of thing, right? And we went and we did 5 songs. And everybody that was going, keep in mind, everybody that was going there was like, just kind of like fooling around. We went in there and we crushed it. And they right on the owner came up to us in front of the house band and offered us the house band gig. Right on the spot, we're like, nah. And then we're like, you guys want to be the house band for Toozers? I'm like, not really. Like, for that. We just want to gig when we want to gig. So anyway, that's like 100 years ago. Fall River, Pork Chop. I never played in Fall River, Bobby. I only went to California. I just played across I played Ontario basically. Yeah. Anyway, long, man. That's 100 miles and 100 years ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah. So I remember you playing in a band. You were still in high school, and you gave me this cassette, and you were recording at the same studio. Was it Mike? Mike, right?
Yeah, it was Mike's studio. Yeah.
Mike's studio and his mom, right? He used to
Yeah.
bring you coffee. Yeah.
Yep.
And you recorded at that studio. And I remember you did a gig downtown and you needed an amp. I took my freaking amp down the gig so you guys could use it. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I used it on the recording too.
Oh, you used my
And
amp? Yeah. Oh, what a shitty amp that was too, man.
it was Princeton, I think it was, but it was
Yeah,
like
but it was
solid state.
It was crap. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
But
know,
I mean, I didn't know anybody with a really nice amp, and
yeah,
I didn't have one.
it wasn't me. That
Yeah.
I got, you know how I got that amp?
From
You got
Nash.
no, not from. Oh, wait a minute. Was it from Nash? I don't know if it was from Nash. No, it wasn't from Nash. I got. You remember Andy used to play bass with me all the
Yeah.
time? So back in the early '90s, there was a time, folks, where us Canadians would drive over the border and buy music gear and then bring it back because all the gear in the U.S. was cheaper because our dollar was at par or a little better than par, and your prices were better. So this would happen all the time. Folks would drive down, buy a bunch of gear, and then bring it back into Canada. So there was one of these trips going on, and Eddie was a part of it. And I told him exactly what amp to buy me. He drove it. He bought it for me in the U.S. and brought it to Canada. That's how I got that amp.
That used to happen a lot. I mean, in the U.S., they get stuff that we don't get, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? The first time I ever saw a Zematis, and actually even to now, the first Zematis guitar I've ever actually, I'll two guitars. I've never seen a Zematis in Canada, recently I have, but up until about a year or two ago, I'd never seen a GNL in Canada.
Oh, right.
And when we were in Manhattan, I went to they had it was a guitar center in Manhattan, and they had those two guitars, and I'd never seen them before. Mind you, they were all chained up. That's one thing you'll notice if you ever go to the U.S. You can't just grab a guitar and play it. You got to ask somebody. They got to unlock it, take it down, you play it, and then they lock it up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You grab guitars and play them in the U.S. like we can here. Cool. Let me know if anybody has any questions as we go through. Shit, man, we already did the hour. Awesome. We got 40, 47, 46 people watching. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you're just tuning in, this is my brother, Dennis. He has his own YouTube channel. He is a phenomenal player. His link is below if you want to check out his channel. I highly suggest you do. Great compositions. And he is also the person responsible for all my original music, all the recording, and he's got some input, on sounds and things as we go through. And you know what? And here's the other comment I get all the time. What the hell did you record on? When I tell people that all you're using is GarageBand, they're like, what?
Yeah, we've talked about that. It's interesting. I mean, GarageBand is, I don't know why people look down upon it. It's got pretty, high fidelity, in terms of its performance and all that. Like I'm probably going to make the move to Logic, as I am a Mac guy. Um, I think maybe a lot of it might have to do with the analog to digital converter that I use, or like the preamp. So for people that nerd out about the stuff, I use Mo2, or known as Mark of the Unicorn. It's an 8 pre. It's an older digital to analog converter. It's got 8 inputs for quarter-inch and for XLRs. Um, it's a great mic pre and converter. So that might have something to do with how good things sound. But GarageBand as a platform, like I've heard, great stuff produced on that. It's to me, it's just another tool. It's not so much the tool; it's how you use it, right?
Yeah, like I mean, the sounds that just to I mean, and I'm not blowing smoke. This is a God's honest truth. How long? So I'm going to ask Dennis. This is unrehearsed. How long does it take me to dial in a tone?
Oh, here,
Yeah,
like not even 30 seconds
30
usually,
seconds.
if
Okay,
that.
so it's like it's the mic. It all Dennis is using for my guitar tones, and I mean I got some pretty massive tones. Black Monday is like
That's
Armageddon.
great. Yeah.
Escape. These are crazy ass tones. All that is my pedal board playing through an amp and and I mean it's not like even mic placement. It's not like 20 minutes. It's like literally you throw an SM58 in front of it and we go and that's it. There is so little time invested in tones. It would freak you out. It's literally I got my little pedal board. You know, I'll use one of 3 overdrive pedals. The last video that the last song that we did, Desert Road, I used the gain off the amp because I had the Friedman that day. The rest of it it's so quick, it's so easy. Mitch is saying Escape is his favorite. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't take us too long to dial in tones. I mean, yeah, just a couple mics. Like I might use one of those condenser mic every once in a while, which for people that nerd out about this stuff, it's an AKG C214. Either using your amp or one of my amps, because I mean, it's carpeted floor, drop ceiling, so the sound refraction and all that isn't really an issue. Um, yeah, it doesn't take us long to dial in a tone. It's just a matter of getting the right levels and getting a good capture. My speakers don't really ever move around, so I know where to put the mic, to get the best. It's just a matter of repetition. We've been doing it so long. I've been doing my own recordings on this stuff. I know how to dial in a tone pretty quick. Um,
What takes the longest is basically that first getting the tempo and programming the drums for a basic track. That's what takes because you're working with a drum machine. After that, it's pretty, you know, it's just a matter of can I get it, how long can I play before I mess up, which, I try to get through it.
yeah, ideally, once we get the skeleton track done, it's just a matter of getting a few good takes and stuff, and like you're not you're not as high maintenance as I am. Like I think after like 10 or 12 tracks, like it's usually around the limit where you're like, okay, let's. I think last track we recorded, I was like, come on, just one more, just one more.
No,
But usually it's within like 2 or 3 takes. You're pretty happy with it, and I can hear it in the performance too. So
yeah, I got no patience. I just want to get it done and get out. Like literally, yeah, I, I'm a cheap. If I was paying by the hour, I'd be like the cheapest person ever to record. It's like, let's just get this done and get the hell out of here. I want to have a go. I want to go have a cigar or something.
yeah.
Mitch, a guitar hack. The magic happens in the editing. Yeah, well, the post production stuff. So, if when I lay my stuff down, it's very minimal effects, minimal. effects, sometimes even just dry guitar tone, with some drive. Like the drive is done, but in terms of like reverbs and delays and choruses, a lot of it is pretty bare bones. I mean, I can let you elaborate on this, but you add all that stuff after the fact, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like Mitch says, there a lot of the magic happens in post production, sort of. So that's where a lot of EQ comes in, a lot of compression, a lot of panning. Like um, what you'll hear a lot of times is, I mean, we go for a good capture of the basic guitar tone, but to be honest, a lot of that gets sort of flushed out, or certain frequencies get suppressed as it goes into a mix. So that's stuff that I've had to learn over the years of recording, and GarageBand's a decent enough tool for doing that kind of tone shaping, because we've all, many of us as guitar players have probably experienced listening to our guitar in isolation by ourselves, and then you hear it taken out of a mix and it might sound like thin and shitty or something, like what the hell happened, like there's no bottom end here, or it sounds very tinny, for example. But when you put it
Yeah.
into the context of a mix, it fits perfectly like a glove. So that definitely takes time, the mixing, the panning, learning where to EQ things and set them up in the mix, because you get a lot of guitar and bass sometimes overlap, and then drums sometimes can overlap with some of the higher notes, so you got to learn how to balance and get everything right and in phase.
Like, yeah, I mean, I know that, like sometimes, like I'll double the rhythms and I'll use like a tone that is absolutely abysmal. Like
Hmm.
this sounds like ass, but I don't have that perspective, whereas you do from recording that. You're like, oh yeah, it sounds like shit on its own, but wait till I mix it with the main rhythm track and it's just gonna and yeah, you have that foresight that I don't have, and it works out and it sounds good after the fact. And Dennis will generally send me a mix, usually with like the next day after I do the recording, and then my changes will be like very a couple of minor notes, you know boost this, drop that. I mean, I think the craziest thing I ever said to you was, I want this to sound like I'm playing on the top of a mountain, right? And
Hmm.
then you delivered it on that solo on Critical Mass, which I think that's probably the best solo I've one of the best solos I've ever played in my life is on that song, on the clean part. It's insane. I'll
Yeah.
never duplicate that. It doesn't even sound like me. But stuff like that, right? But yeah, it's all I basically I like leave my scraps and then I run away, and then you do all the. There was a question. Oh, Paul's guitar music too. Do you leave the bass and drums centered? He's asking you.
In general, yeah. um yeah, short answer is yeah. I might pan them slightly left or right to center. It depends on mostly bass, and so it really depends on what other guitar sounds are happening, or if there's like a particularly driving bass line, I might pitch it to one side and let guitars drive the other side.
So Laz was saying, yep, back in the day when he had a studio, we would go in with the guitars and amp, pretty much had everything on top. Yeah, post
Hmm.
production. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, typically, like, I mean, with the process you and I use, like, because the reason it doesn't take us too long, I think, when you get here into the slaughterhouse, is because you already have a good clear idea of what you want, and like the song is generally mapped out, so it's just a matter of getting the sketch of that skeleton down, and then we just start pouring layers on it. And then after you leave, I'll generally put some bass on it, and then start the mixing process, and adding special colors or effects or whatever here and there, seasoning the recipe to taste, kind of thing. And then
Yes. Just
once I think it's good enough for my ears, then I'll usually send you a quick mix. And yeah, just season and adjust and tweak from there. It's nothing too complicated, but I think a lot of that again has to do with the fact that you know what you want already, and like
yeah. I have a vision. I have a vision in my head. Yeah, I know what, and that's why when I hear the mix, it's like, okay, it's close, but I need this, and that, and then you're able to dial it up. So, but I should mention too, like on all my tracks, it's Dennis is playing the bass, and the drums are all programmed. So everything, all the guitars, I drop them, I split, and then later on, or sometimes you've played bass while I was there, and then you know, and then I'll make, even the bass line, it's like minimal instruction, like I'll tell you go nuts or whatever, double the riff, you know. I mean, it's again, it all comes down to, like you were saying, like if when I come in, like, I mean, I'll be there, I'll be at Dennis's place on Saturday, and I have another song that's completely mapped out. I know exactly what I'm going for, and I have all the parts laid out. The only thing that I leave sort of up for grabs is I don't like to pre-plan solos. I like to do them. I find that when I do them on the fly, I surprise myself. I'll come up with stuff that I never would have normally come up with. And the hardest part actually of that is like forgetting the fact that I'm being recorded and just let it go. That is the tricky part, because it's that, red light syndrome, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
but once I get past that, and usually I don't have any patience, so if I don't think I've done more than like four solos and on anything, and it's like, okay, I'm done. Just take the best one. I don't care. That's usually what I say. I don't care. Just
Yep.
pick one. Pelican J is asking, what's your first place you can't wait to play after COVID hits? Uh, you know what? At this point, Pelican J, for me, it would be any bar. Really. I mean, there's some bars I like better playing than others, but I just would love to play in a bar and entertain a group of folks. For me, the big rush of a bar is seeing a lot of smiling faces and a lot of people up in front of me getting down and having a good time and hooping and hollering. That's what I miss. That's really what I miss at the end of the day. What's your let's talk about bands for a minute. So, who are you playing with currently, and are you interested in playing out with any band that you're with right now?
That's a good question. So, main band that I'm involved with and play with regularly, like we're putting out an EP. Hopefully this summer. We're actively recording it, and we're just going over some mixes of some tunes. But that current band is called Hello Companion. So feel free to check us out on YouTube and on Facebook. Yeah, we're on Facebook, and I'm not, as you can see, I'm not so good at the social media promotion stuff. Um, but yeah, Hello Companion is the main band that I'm in, and I'm involved in a couple other projects. Another project is kind of more U.S. based. We're sort of a remote project. A bunch of guys that I've played with since the days of university, and that group is called Plans for Larry. That band has never played live and probably never will. We're mostly a recording band, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a couple little small mini, like turning a couple projects that I have going on the side where I'm mostly jamming with a couple of my favorite musician friends. I'm looking to see if we can, come up with something a little more serious and get out and play some shows. It's very much more abstract type jazzy material that I don't really get to play in Hello Companion or Plans for Larry. And yeah, I'm hoping to, get more into original music and maybe a little bit away from cover band stuff, which has been a big part of my playing in the past.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. So let me know if we're going to be wrapping this up. So let me know if anyone has any further questions. Again, please throw a bunch of question marks in front, and I'll be able to catch those. So while we're waiting for some more questions coming in, if you're just tuning into the show, it's my brother. He is a fantastic player. He's got his own YouTube channel below, lots of original music, and he's putting out stuff all the time. Definitely, I would highly suggest you check it out and throw him a sub. His channel is called Denskilmusic. Okay, you got a few subs, Dennis. Gene subbed, and I think Quentin said he subbed. That's awesome. Yeah, check it out. If nothing else, if you just want a taste of the channel, pop into the channel and listen to something called Strato Blaster. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Anyway, so check that out. And if you would like to support this channel, if you're new to the channel, Flying Pickle, there's a new name, Guitar Hack. Yeah, Dennis is wearing the swag today. If you want to help support the channel, down below I've got links. I've got Guitar Hack merch, hoodies like Dennis is wearing. I've got T-shirts. I've got mugs, all kinds of stuff, and then for COVID, I now have masks and gaiters and all that stuff. So that link is below. And there was a lot of people asking me for hats. I now have Guitar Hack hats. Okay, that is the other link below for Spreadshirt. There are Guitar Hack hats out there now, so you can get your Guitar Hack hat if that's something you'd like. And other ways to support the channel, there's a PayPal down there as well. And if you don't follow me on Facebook, Instagram, I have a Guitar Hack group. There's an email. Everything is down below. If you want to, check that stuff out, because there's always content in one way, shape, or form. Okay, Don, my buddy Don's got a question. So why haven't you told about your bros band hack? Just listen to tidbits. Okay, hang on. Listen to tidbits of them. Sound good. Plug your hats, silly. I just did. Like Don is the first person to own a Guitar Hack hat, and he was wearing it on. He did a show yesterday with Mitch Heyman, and Don was sporting his Guitar Hack hat, and it looks pretty good. So it's like, I'm waiting for mine. It's somewhere in Newark. It'll be here at some point, and yeah, awesome. Okay, Gene Schmidt is a subscriber. This guy's a monster. You should check out Gene Schmidt. Anybody in the chat, check out Gene Schmidt. That guy's a beast. He's asking, what did Dennis play through on Stratoblaster?
Oh, amp wise, it would be a combination, two different amps. On Stratoblaster, I mostly use my Mesa Boogie California Tweed, but I also use my Sir Badger 35 for a lot of it. So yeah. Oh, and I also have a little Marshall custom offset, like a little one water. So yeah, those are my three amps, and I pretty much use them all.
Yeah, I think I think of the amps that I've used with recording. I mean, other than me taking the Friedman that one day, is that Sir Badger. That thing's a beast.
Yeah, it's a great amp. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the little 1 watt Marshall is really fun too. It's got a surprising big sound, and it's very, very JTM 45y.
Yeah. Quinn's got a question. Guitar Hack, does Dennis have any good stories about you kids getting into trouble back in the day? We're too far apart in age, man. We're too far apart in age. No.
Yeah, not really. Besides, my brother almost having me thrown in jail for getting thrown out of bars.
Yeah. That's right. I almost got him arrested for going into a bar underage to see the band.
Yeah. Oh well.
All right. So if there's no further questions, you guys have a fantastic week. Look for some new music coming up from myself, and there's lots of new music to listen to on Dennis's channel. If you would care to have a look, again, the link is below. And guys, have a great week. And yeah, I guess we'll see you all next. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here's a big plug, folks. If anybody is a Van Halen fan, you have got to watch next week's show. Philip Schaus from the band Accept, who also happens to play in Ace Frehley and Gene Simmons solo band, is going to be playing some Van Halen live for you, as well as the gentleman I just mentioned a minute ago, Gene Schmidt. Both those guys are well schooled in Van Halen. They play in Van Halen cover bands. They're going to show you all kinds of Van Halen licks. If you were ever curious how to play a Van Halen lick, check out the show next week. Next week is an all Van Halen show. Next Wednesday, 8 o'clock on the Hack Show. So definitely check that show out. All right. Any last things you want to mention, Dennis, before we sign off here?
Just a big thanks, Hack, for having me on, and thanks for sending a bunch of new fans and listeners to me from your Guitar Hack Army family. Please check out my YouTube and Hack's YouTube. We've got more music coming out. I've got some more music coming out, and like and subscribe and all that nonsense. But yeah, thanks again so much for having me on.
No worries, man. It was a pleasure. This was a stress-free show. I love stress-free shows.
Right on.
All right, folks. Take care. Good night.